G'day guys, I'm Sebastian Terry and welcome to another 100 Things Fireside. These firesides are designed for you so that you can come and listen to industry gurus and heavyweights so that you can walk away with your own tips and tricks to apply to your own goals. So of course, you can go and achieve all your dreams and aspirations. This week's Fireside is all about acting. Whether you're right at the beginning of that journey or whether you're already halfway down, we are very fortunate to be speaking to Jaimie Alexander, a very accomplished actress. Jaimie plays Lady Sif in the Thor franchise, as well as starring in her own show called Blind Spot on NBC, now in its 5th season. We're going to be talking to Jaimie and she's going to be sharing all her tips and all her tricks about how she developed her craft and even navigated the industry professionally. Keep listening. This is going to be a fun one, and thank you so much for being here. Jaimie, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Let's get straight into it. You're a busy person. Famous actress. How did it start? How did you get into it?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I mean...
How did you know you wanted to act? What was the very first part?
How did I know I wanted to act? I think I always liked making people laugh and entertaining people. And, you know, I was a bit of a quiet kid, but with my brothers, we would often goof off and make my mother laugh. And I just found that being in front of people never made me nervous. I really liked it. I just always loved it. And I loved movies, loved TV, loved, you know, cartoons, anything entertainment wise. I just loved it. And I think that's where it started. I just realized that I had this natural ability to command people's attention in a positive way.
Right.
Hopefully I'll never use it for, you know, evil.
Sure. Okay. So it was young. So you were young.
Very young.
You were attracted to it. You were kind of good at it. You engaged people. Mm-hmm. You went to high school. We've done some research. It seems that you were acting until they said, when you sing, you don't sound fantastic. I don't believe them, by the way.
It's very true, you guys. I cannot sing. Everybody thinks I can do like jazz or something like that. I can't. I can yodel. I can absolutely. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Yodelay, hoo, yodelay, hoo, yodelay, yodelay, yodeloo. That's it, guys.
Okay.
So can you see, being in high school, growing up in Texas, why your teacher might go, you know what, honey, I think you might want to try something else. I mean, in middle school, I was always in a lot of plays. I really enjoyed it. Funny enough, and this has followed me throughout my entire career, I always seemed to play the characters that were written for men, but they would change them to a female version of that character. And that has followed me to this day, which is really great. And we can get into that later. But yeah, high school rolled around and I decided to, once I was kicked out of drama class, I decided to become a wrestler instead. So another form of performing.
Wow. So you loved acting. You were kind of good at it. You commanded the attention. Then they found out you yodeled or couldn't sing. And then you stopped.
Then I stopped. Well, the thing is I was kicked out, so I didn't really have a choice.
God, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So I think when anyone follows a goal that they're passionate about, acting or otherwise, there's always resistance. There's always people who would say, no, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this. How did you then loop back into it? Yeah.
Well, this is a bit serendipitous. So like I said, got into wrestling, still didn't care being in front of a crowd full of people in spandex wrestling. That was, is that not a highlight to life? Like just experiencing that?
Yeah, I feel the same way.
You know, how much fun? I think everybody would, right? Mm-hmm. Sausage in a casing. But anyways, a good girlfriend of mine, we were both pretty tall. We were probably, I think 17 at a mall in Texas, as you do. And we were scouted. And this one person came up and said, hey, we're putting on this showcase in Dallas. We were from a small town nearby. And so we thought, ooh, Dallas, you know, and they said, if you pay this much money, you can do it. Well, my family and I couldn't afford the amount of money they were wanting. Lisa's family could. So I would just go with her and her mother to these rehearsals. Now, she was a painter, an incredible artist, could care less about performing arts or modeling or anything. I think she just wanted to do it because she thought I was going to do it too. So I ended up not, being able to do it, except what ended up happening to her is she had to get her wisdom teeth out a few days before this showcase, and she couldn't do it. So I had to take her place. And while I was there was a manager who I'm not affiliated with anymore, but he was there at the time, and he was filling in for his wife's friend who was going into labor. So neither one of us was supposed to be there.
Right.
So my theory is if you're passionate about something and you really, truly believe it's your calling, not only, all you have to do is show up, because I believe the universe conspires to lay that path out for you.
I love it. So that's that's the answer, isn't it? If you're passionate about something, you'll find a way through dogged determination, but opportunity as well.
Yes, to trust that inner knowing and just know that that is what you're supposed to do in some form or fashion, and go with it and don't give up.
So again, dealing with people who are potentially starting this whole career, wanting to get into acting, to be, on a billboard, to act, to do the whole thing. What's the very first thing that they should do? They've got the passion. That's why they're watching or listening now. Mm-hmm. What then? What happens?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's different for everybody.
Not everyone gets scouted in Texas.
Absolutely. I mean, that I didn't even really realize that was what was happening at the time. I had no idea it would lead to this. But I always believed I was supposed to do something in the public eye. And I got very lucky. I moved out to LA after I graduated high school in Texas. I waited
because of acting.
Year and a half, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't have money saved up to go to college. My theory was that I would come out here, maybe try to get a commercial or something and put that money towards college. So I really did not realize that somebody from a small town in Texas, from a poor family, could amount to being what I am now.
A yodeler.
A yodeler, guys. A yodeler. It's, I could die tomorrow. So, I think if you're just starting out, just know that you have to know why you want to be an actor. Do you want that, or do you want to be famous? There's a big difference.
Right.
Not everybody who becomes an actor successfully or makes money off of it will do it in a way that I've been able to do, or others, as in like TV or film. You may be a teacher at a community theater. You may be a teacher at a school or a high school. And if you are, please don't kick the students out, because, some of us actually like what we do in school.
I love it.
But, so you have to go through what it is about this craft that you really love. Do you like storytelling? Do you like entertaining people, making people smile, making them feel something, taking them out of their current reality in a good way, showing them that they matter in that way, like performing something relatable. So find out what it is that attracts you to it so much, and don't ever lose that. Don't ever compromise.
Of course, because that's the priceless part. That's the magic. Do you have to goal set? Do you have to, again, does someone go, right, I want to be famous, I want to be an actor, how specific? I want to be a TV actor, I want to be a movie, I want to be on stage, how was it for you? Is goal setting an important part?
I do think goal setting is important, but you have to realize that there's so much not in your control. So your goal setting should be something like, okay, you find other artists that you admire. Don't look at what they did to get to where they are, because again, like I said, everybody is different. I was very fortunate to get found in Texas, but you have to look at perhaps their performance on screen and go, okay, can I do something like that? Am I brave enough and honest enough with myself to give that my all? And once you have, then you go about, trying to find an agent. You can get some pictures made. Now, this is, decade or more ago when I was doing this. But you send these things out, and you can go to these group castings. You can, you need to get your Screen Actors Guild card. So you could do some extra work on set. The more you're doing, the more you're learning. So acting for me is something you cannot learn through a book. You have to participate. You have to be active in it. And that means, if you need to be on set to get your Screen Actors Guild card by be doing extra work or whatever, that's time spent on set. You learn set etiquette. You learn where the lights go. You learn the whole protocol of the day. And these days can end up being, 16 hours long or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're goal setting, then you're willing to just get in and amongst it, immerse yourself.
Absolutely. Come from a humble place and know that you have a lot to learn and you don't know everything.
And so apart from going on to stages, if you can, and acting in front of a camera or other people, can you go home and practice? Is it a matter of, I'm making this up, practicing accents, or is there theory to it, or are there different ways that what can someone be doing? Because isolation is affecting us all right now.
Absolutely.
Should aspiring actors be doing stuff at home?
I come from a very different background, because like I said, I did this in school and got kicked out of my acting class in school. So I never really had any formal training as an actor.
Right.
And so for me, what I do is, I love to watch movies. I love to watch really good television, really good content. And I appreciate those performances. And I think, where would I fit in? Like, what character in this series that I'm watching would I be able to play? It's also, you can discover what what your strong suit is, the characters that you relate to a lot are probably the ones you're going to be able to play really well. This is my experience. Again, this is advice coming from a non-trained actor, but I just learned by doing and repetition, right? If you're really big into, character acting and doing accents, by all means, take some courses online, learn, mimic. Like mimicking is fantastic. I love watching, Mike Myers, like just all of his accents and every character he plays. Eddie Murphy is fantastic as well. You can always, see what you want in something and find the way that you can manifest it. And so it's a little tough because, again, in isolation, you wouldn't necessarily be performing for anyone because you're by yourself. But, it's hard to give advice in this way because I also believe part of this is living your life. You can perform characters if you've lived a life. If all you do is read books on how to be an actor and you devote, you put all your eggs in that basket, you will never be a good actor.
Well, you told me at one point, off air, that empathy was one of your strong points when it comes to act. It helps you portray a character. And so I'm fascinated by that. Is suddenly empathy something everyone should be Googling if they don't know what it means, and then introducing to their world? Like, how much of acting is actually knowing yourself? And, without getting into the weeds of psychology, I guess in essence, you're reading the words of other people and trying to deliver them as your own. So you need to, it's an inward kind of journey to be, I don't know, successful on camera?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky that, I just basically popped out empathetic. Ever since I was really itty bitty, I've always had a high level of compassion and empathy. And often I'll get asked, what's your process? How do you break down characters and all this stuff? And I said, I don't know if I can actually write down on paper what it is that goes on up here and in my heart when I'm relating to these characters. But I find, one, what's relatable. What really, if you're reading a good script, there will be times where you're holding your breath. You might cry. You might laugh uncontrollably. Those things, when it especially gives you that physical reaction or you have that aha moment when you're reading a script, that is a strong part for you. Like you look at that and you go, oh, like I know what that feels like. Or, I'll read about somebody, maybe there's a character in a script that's lost a child. I do not have children. I will never know what that's like. I see that and I can feel, it's like seeing a woman in front of me. I can feel how devastating that must feel. And because I can empathize, guys, it's in the dictionary. I know how I could maybe portray that character, even though I've never experienced that. So empathy, compassion, again, having a life experience.
So is that emotional awareness? Again, aspiring actors of the things that they can do, emotional intelligence is, emotional awareness. It's crucial.
Absolutely. It's that level of honesty, that self-honesty. And a lot of people become so afraid of themselves that they try to be what they think someone else is like. Like, say you think Jennifer Lawrence is a fantastic actress. You don't need to be her. There's already one of those. There's already Jennifer Lawrence out there. So my biggest advice to anybody starting out or anybody in the middle of it or even anybody far more successful than me, it's like, just be yourself. Like this industry wants people that are unique and different. And you're not going to be those things if you're trying to be someone else. It's
so interesting because I think the same way about life. I think that at the end of, not that I'm a profound person, but I think, are you good by that?
Guys, it's hot in here. We're in Venice Beach.
We can cut if you...
No.
You've got some sweat on the...
Oh, no. Oh, God, I got a sweat stash, guys. This is real life. Empathize with this.
Oh, I thought you'd want me to cut... No, we'll just go...
carrying on.
Okay. I like it. Right. So I think that's a secret to a happy life, being yourself. So this inward journey, knowing who you are so that you can kind of empathize, etc. with others, important part of acting.
Yes.
To steer away from process for now, though, just take a step backwards. How important, again, I think this is true to life, how important are the people around you? Because when you go for a dream, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, I did too with my story, no one really supported me. And I kind of went for it anyway. And of course, now down the track, I feel very supported by my community. How important is that for acting, be it, personal perhaps in the first stages, so a high school girl in Texas to where you are now in Hollywood or between here and New York? How important is it to have people around you? And for those who are feeling a little lost or unsupported, how do you build that up?
I would have to say... anybody who is not in support of something that you love and that you're passionate about, fuck them. because in all honesty, like, you don't need them in your life. If somebody loves you and wants you to do well, that should be, it doesn't matter what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
And if you know that this is something you've always wanted and this is something that you do not want to give up on, then do not trade it for anything and don't give up on it. And that has happened several times in my life. I've had, you know, my mother was extremely fearful for me to go west of Texas and move to California. And I had an inner knowing that I would be just fine and that I was going to do whatever it took without compromising my soul to make my dream come true. And I just had, you know, I said goodbye to her, and I've had her loving support ever since. And it's been really wonderful. But I have also had, you know, other family members and really close friends just completely tell me I'd never make it. I'm crazy. What am I doing? And these came from people that didn't even really know me that well. And it was heartbreaking, but I never let them change my mind.
So I've got two questions here.
Yes.
And a statement. Statement, awesome. I love that. First question is, do you use that as some kind of motivation moving forward? Like, I'll show them. Is that a positive way to think about it, or no?
No, I leave that where it happened.
Okay.
I never bring that forward because my journey is not about them. It's for me. Okay. And so I do nothing with a vengeful heart or in any form of revenge.
Right. So you make all the decisions with love. You
Yes.
might not have the support. Therefore, you move away from those people. You cull them. And then, so you've got a clear plate suddenly. How do you then attract or create and build the support network you did? So you came to LA, and again, in a way that other people can grab advice and tips from this. How do you build a team of people around you? And I say a team, I don't know if it's a community or a friendship circle or...
I mean, it's trial and error, you know. I had a manager for a decade. He was great for that decade. And eventually he wasn't, you know, and things fell apart. And I had to make a decision to separate myself from that person because, again, it's business. It's not personal. But this is my dream. This is my life, you know, and as long as you know, do things with compassion and love and, you know, some sort of tact, you know, that's what you should be doing. And it takes a backbone to do those things. You know, a lot of people say, well, this person, you know, was with me since the beginning. What doesn't work, doesn't work. So you have to make a choice. It's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah. But I mean, fueled by true passion, it makes it easier. Personally, you try and, you know, have friends who maybe, who are more supportive. Do you hang out with fellow actors? Are you getting should people be looking to do that? Should they be looking to get coaches? Should they be, you know, in the ilk of immersing oneself in a culture? Are, you know, agents and, you know, not to get too kind of industry at this point, but
it is a part of it.
It is. You're trying to surround yourself with it. You're just trying to be in the middle of all of it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, for me, you know, in the Thor franchise, I do a British accent. I could not try. I mean, it would be very difficult for me to just pull that out of my ass right now. I actually have to work at that. I'm not musical, like we've discussed.
Yeah.
Very not musical.
People are tweeting about the yodeling still, yeah.
They're so going off for it. It's that and Chewbacca, and that's my fail-safe. If this doesn't work out.
Chewbacca.
Yeah.
We'll get that later.
We'll get it later.
Okay.
So yeah, for me, I think what we were talking about with like agencies and the whole industry part, it's trial and error. You know, it's hard to get an agent. You know, there are so many people that want to be in this industry. But you just have to know that you are an individual and you have something to offer and to never get up. This industry is 99% rejection. I have been turned down so many times for so many roles, but you know, then I've gotten some, and that's just how it goes, especially being freelance. That's just how it goes. You're going to have some extreme lows and there are going to be extreme highs.
Oh, so many questions. I don't know what order to put them in.
Oh gosh.
No, it's great. It's great. So, okay. You come to LA, you're first getting started. What's kind of the attitude that someone should have? Is it, right, I've goal set, I know specifically what I want, therefore I'm only going to go for that? Or is it kind of, I'm here, I'm open to any foot in the door, wherever that door is, and just go for it?
I would say be open to things. You know, when I first came to LA, they were wanting the, you know, kind of that OC vibe, you know, the blonde bombshell, California bombshell. They weren't looking for somebody who looked like they were 15 that had a voice of like a 50-year-old smoker. They just weren't, you know, and I'm very tall.
Are you describing yourself?
I am describing myself, guys.
That's great.
But, you know, I couldn't fit the bill. I was not the girl next door. And I had to sort of fight for a while to get work. And I didn't for a long time. I mean, I slept on the floor of this apartment for like 4 years, couldn't even afford a bed. There were times I slept in my car and I had no place to live. I mean, those types of, my mom's going to kill me for that one.
Doesn't know that.
Yeah, she does now.
Because it's tough. I mean, but
it is very tough.
It's tough being an actor.
You find, by trial and error, you find where you can find a niche, you know, like for me, it's clearly action. I'm tall. I've got a low voice. I have an athletic background. I can do stunts. I can play certain characters that most people would have a hard time making believable. And that's something that once I found that was where I was getting a lot of good feedback from, I sort of went with it because that was the easiest for me to play. It was just, why try harder than you have to in that sense, you know? Now, again, I've done some dark comedies and things like that, and that gets me a little nervous because I don't do that as often. So that would be where now, because I'm more confident in my abilities, I would like to branch out more and try more of those things.
So are you exercise? So adventure and action, dark comedy. So you're humorous, you're a funny person, but I mean, in terms of acting, again, for people watching and listening who are like, okay, well, that makes me nervous because I don't think I'm funny, which I think is a very common kind of mindset. You just turn your attention to that and just learn? I
just try it. I try it. Sometimes, I've been told, oh God, there's been a time where I've gone to an audition and I did so bad, I was asked to leave the office in the middle of my audition.
Wow.
Now that guy was an asshole, but still.
Wow.
I was like, okay. And you have to know, like, it's not personal. Just leave, do it again tomorrow, do it again later that day. Like, keep going, keep trying, and keep working at it, you know?
That's unbelievable. When it comes to characters then that you're auditioning for, I want to ask about the process and everything, but just one quick question I have in front of my head is, when does that, and again, I'm throwing out terms that in my head make sense. I don't know if they make sense to an actor, but when does that character development start? Is it for an audition or is it only once you've got the part and then you think about it?
Well, when you audition, typically you'll get something called sides, which is a piece of the script. Now you'll get given, more often than not, you'll get given a whole script. You'll read it at home, but you'll only read a little bit of it in an audition. Okay. So you can break down a character. I have friends that are formerly trained actors. They have a whole tangible process. For me, it's sitting with it. It's empathizing, right? Most of the time I wing it. In all honesty, I go in, I have the lines memorized mostly. Sometimes I don't even memorize them all the way because I like to not have things so locked in stone. So certain people, they want to know exactly how they're going to say something when they're going to say it. For me, I'm very malleable. Like, I like to be directed. I like to go in and sort of play with the script with the director or whoever's in the room at the time. So I kind of put, I'd say 75% effort into it and leave that 25% to be manipulated in a positive way with whatever the director is looking for. Because sometimes my interpretation of the character is not at all what they see, but they kind of like it. So they're like, maybe we can marry these two things. So again, being flexible, being open to change, don't beat yourself up about anything. Don't overdo it. Relax, have yourself dinner the next morning, go in, read, the audition and leave it at the door when you leave.
Well, that's hard because rejection it's
so hard.
Everyone hates rejection.
Oh, everybody does. So you're not alone.
What's your tip for getting over this? Again, the casting room seems such a scary place.
It is.
I've never been there.
It's one of the most judgmental, I think, rooms I've ever been in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are your tips for people who are like, right, I'm petrified about this. I think I might stop. I might not even go to an audition. I don't know. Is there 1, 2, 3 things you keep in your mind going to an audition?
Well, the thing is, it's hot.
It's hot in here, right?
Yeah. Oh, anyways, I'm glowing. No, what I do when I go in and meet for a part, I just know that I have something to offer. And it may not be what they're looking for, but I go in and offer what I have. And if they don't take it, they don't take it. And what you do to let go of that is you go on to the next thing. Right. You know, a lot of times people will have a lunch scheduled for after the audition. They're going to meet a good friend, go for a swim, do something else that is a bit of self-care for yourself. And I always go in, like I said, knowing that I have something to offer, but I have no ego with it. Because again, like I said, you can go in and think you're the bee's knees, but they may not. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. You know, you can't go in and say, I can't believe they didn't like me. I'm amazing. It's like, yeah, well, a lot of people aren't going to like you, but a lot of people are. So you have to leave ego at the door, which is hilarious. Because
it's like therapy. So, okay. So another big thing I imagine as aspiring actors is learning lines as another fear.
Yes.
Rejection and learning lines. Mm-hmm. I mean, going back to what we spoke about before, you know, acting being all about delivering lines as if they're yours. Uh-huh. How do you Two-part question. How do you, A, learn lines? Do you have tips and tricks? And once you've done them, how do you then transfer just words that you've just learned off a page and turn that into
something natural? Like something, It's difficult. Sometimes when you read a script, you'll naturally be able to read it in a flow that you're like, oh yeah, this is so easy. Some scripts are very difficult. They just don't flow. And it just depends. You know, I'll read something that maybe a British writer has written, and the word order is very different than how we would normally talk here in America, and also where I was raised in Texas. So I have to try a little bit harder to make it sound organic and natural as I say it. But I would say for memorization, I am incredibly blessed to have a very photographic memory. On my show Blind Spot, most of the time I would go to work in the mornings and just look at the lines for the day and be able to memorize it right there in the makeup chair.
No way.
Whereas a couple of my co-stars would have to learn it 2 weeks before. So everybody's a little different.
Again, know yourself.
Know yourself. And if you have trouble memorizing and you let that, I guess, stop you up a little bit, call a friend, see if somebody will come and read it with you, and you just go back and forth with the lines until they become second nature. And you have to also know what it is you're saying. A lot of actors I've worked with in the past, and this is just an observation, we've talked about it, it's not at all a judgment, but a lot of actors will say the lines and have no idea what exactly they're saying. And therefore there's unnatural pauses in sentences where there shouldn't be, because they're just trying to find a rhythm so that they have it memorized. So not only do you need to memorize it, you need to know what you're saying. And if you know what you're saying, say you're doing a monologue where you're telling a story. If you really know what's going to happen next in that story, you don't have to work so hard to memorize it. You just know it's coming, you know, and it helps with memorization. So really know what you're talking about. Acting
is not, it seems like it's not even just about you. If you're working with someone in a scene, I think you've referred to it as, it's about them too. Like it's, again, so that awareness of people outside of just yourself.
It's like a dance. Yeah. Wow. And if somebody, say you go into an audition and they have you read with another actor, that's always fun. Especially somebody you've never met. You're like, ooh, how fun is this? Sometimes you might have an idea about how the other part is going to be performed. Say you think somebody's going to be, they're angry in the scene and you're envisioning quiet anger. You go in there and they start yelling at you. You can't just pretend like the person's not yelling. You have to feed off of that and let that drive the way you're saying lines, because unless you're a sociopath, anybody screaming at you and you just sit there and you stay quiet like this, it's not going to make sense at all. And somebody's going to go, they're not listening. So acting for me is ultimately about listening and then responding.
I love it. Okay, so I have another little cheeky question for you.
Okay.
So we've spoken about using a passion, surrounding yourself with the right people, a little bit about trying to overcome rejection or reframing it so you can audition.
Reframing is a great word. Yes.
Thank you. So it's one of my favorites. So you've then, we've nailed a part. Again, so what do people then look forward to? They get the call. I'm assuming it's a call. Hey, great, audition, casting. Audition or casting?
Either.
Good. You've got the role. What happened? What's the process? I mean, without going into too much depth again, but long hours you've mentioned. You've mentioned also, you've got the crew, you've got a director, you've got fellow actors. I mean, a lot of it is relationship managing as well. And we're getting away from the craft of acting here. But when it comes to actually being in Blind Spot, your show, or Thor, or any of the other things you've done, what should people expect?
Well, it's different for everything, for every job. Some, if you do an independent film, there's this real relaxed feeling to the way things go. You'll hop on the phone with somebody from the wardrobe department to discuss your sizes and what the character is going to be wearing. You'll have perhaps a coffee with the director to go over, what we're going to tackle first, when it comes to scheduling and what scenes are going to be shot and who the other actors might be. There's all kinds of things that go into it. And it's all, again, just a really great experience for better or worse. You're going to work with people you hate. You're going to work with people that you absolutely love. And that's just how life is.
Who are the ones you hate?
Can't tell you. Okay. And moving on. And so but then you have the higher budgeted film and television productions, and those require several levels of I would say almost like video game levels that you have to pass till till you actually get to go to camera, which would be, again, maybe several auditions, doing it again and again and again for this producer, then this director, then the studio, then the network, and it can be a lot. Or as you advance in your career, you can get offers. And it may be something like, oh, hey, Jaimie, like for Blind Spot, hey, we want you to do this. The show was written for you. Will you come in and sit down with the writer, the director, and the producers? Sure. Then you go and you have a lovely conversation about what everybody envisions the show looking like, and maybe your take on the character, their take on the character, and see if you guys mesh.
So interesting.
So it just depends on the project. But again, like I'd say would be, my advice is to go in without your ego, but go in knowing that you have something to offer and that you're willing. This is a very collective and collaborative process. This is not just Jaimie has a character and it's gonna go exactly how I want it to go. It's a group effort.
It's tough out there. Everyone wants to do something. Anywhere's a good start. We've established that. Blind Spot you mentioned, season 1, episode 1, you're naked, you crawl out of a duffel bag. Sorry for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's a great scene. You come out of a duffel bag full of tattoos, and that sets the premise for the whole show. But you're naked. And what kind of control does an actor have, should an actor have, or even what should they consider as they go into these things? Because I guess there's an element of desperation, right? I mean, you talk about Hollywood, and it's an industry where not that many people are successful. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's tough.
It's very tough.
And so you're desperate to do anything and everything, but at the same time, you don't want to do anything and everything.
No, you don't.
So how much control? How do you just make sure that you maintain control to some degree?
Well, I'll say this: the best advice that I can give when it comes to that stuff is, do not be afraid to say no and to turn down a project. I don't care if you're eating cans of beans for your food every day and you're living in your car, because I did that. If it's something that's going to compromise who you are as a person, it's an absolute no. You don't want that energy out there. It will bite you in the ass later, and it will put you on a very negative path. In my career, there are things I don't want to do. I just do not want to do them, so I'll say no. Okay. I'll just say absolutely not doing that project unless you change this. With all due respect, it's just not something I'm comfortable with. That's also where a good team comes in play, because you get yourself a good lawyer, good agents, good management, and you put these clauses in your contract, right, so that when you're on set, there's no question to what you will and will not do. It's just it's a very final thing before you enter that set, before you actually sign on to play the character.
It's kind of tough, isn't it? Because you can see why people would consider doing lots of things that they.
Well, absolutely, it's desperation, but I think we've all been around somebody desperate, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a workplace type of thing, or a romantic relationship, or whatever it is, and it's never attractive on anybody.
Sure.
Because they think so little of themselves. So if you think so little of yourself that you're willing to be that desperate, you shouldn't be in this industry.
Right.
And also, you're worth more than that. So don't do it. Just do not do it. And I promise you, the more you say no to those things, the more good stuff is going to come your way.
I love that. So I mentioned it before. I don't know if I put it the right way, but Hollywood, it's tough. Acting, it's tough. For people throwing themselves, throwing themselves at it because they're passionate. Unfortunately, it doesn't equate all the time to results.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Yeah.
So you must, along the way, feel, you talk about eating beans out of your car, lonely and frustrated and lost and rejected and not worthy and all these things. How do you get around that? How do you keep yourself motivated, even though there is potentially so much resistance to you moving forward?
Well, I think that's part of it. The pool of people that want to do what I'm doing for a living and make a living at it, it's just, probably I'd say over 1 million for sure.
Within a mile of here.
Right, within a mile of that. Yeah, exactly. So you have to know, like, when somebody says no to you or you didn't get the part, look at how many people are trying to get that one part. It has nothing to do with you. Absolutely nothing to do with you. It's the luck of the draw. And a lot of these people, when they write something that's so close, these writers will write these scripts and they've put a lot of thought into it. So they're looking for what they saw in their head. Now, to match that, it's you're not going to match it all the time. It's just... So you have to let it go and not take it personally. Now, you can ask for feedback, honest feedback. That's always great. If somebody says, you know what, I think, she comes in a little too nervous. I think she's a little green. That's a term. great. Get yourself on a set. Do something, whether it's props, whatever you need to do to be on that set to feel more comfortable being on set and being in front of people. You can go and read poetry at a cafe. Whatever it is, try to get that comfort shell to break.
Yeah.
And don't take it personally. These people they're only giving you this feedback because they think you have something to offer and they want to see you do well. Nobody wants to rat on somebody that comes in.
Sure.
Those casting agents, I promise you, they know how hard it is to do what we're doing.
I love that you said a couple of times, don't take it personally. So we did a fireside with Jordan Roberts, scriptwriter. He wrote March of the Penguins and Big Hero 6, and they won Oscars.
That movie.
Right? So, and he said very profoundly at the end, do not take it personally. Do not take it personally. Do not take it personally. That's kind of like a psychological bent on this all, but it's just true. You mentioned agents. Do you need someone, again, starting out, quick question I wanted to ask at the beginning, but forgot. Do you need an agent?
Yeah.
Straight away.
I mean, yes, it's been my experience that the agents and managers are the ones that get your audition. You know, they pitch you to different studios and networks and casting facilities, and they will get you the appointments. And without them, I don't know how somebody would get auditions unless you knew somebody.
So that's one of the first things. Know you're passionate, be willing to, practice, try all the things, get an agent.
And again, if an agent says, you know what, we're not, we can't take you on right now, they may have 4 or 5 or more other people that are your direct competition that look just like you, and they cannot take on another person like that.
Are there a million agents here? Is it easy to find an agent?
Tons of it. Listen, it's easy to find agents. It's not easy to sign with an agent. Okay. Like it takes some work. Again, I'm not the best at giving advice on that because I did come out here with some form of representation to get me in the door. So I will never have that experience of knowing of like how exactly how you get one. Yeah. With nothing in the can already.
Yeah.
There was a time in high school I actually took 2 friends from theater class that I got kicked out of, and we put a scene on tape. We went in this little room and we acted a scene, and one of our friends videotaped it, and I sent it to the manager out here in LA just so he could see some of what I could do.
I love that. Being proactive.
Absolutely. And that's really fun. And, and there's so many platforms now for original content. If you not only want to get into acting, but you're thinking about maybe you like to write or maybe you want to try directing, do it. Yep. Like use your phone. Like you can do just about anything so long as you put your mind to it. And especially if it's something that you're passionate about, what's stopping you?
So good. So we take all your advice on board. Suddenly we start getting castings. Suddenly we start booking jobs. I'm kind of interested because this, everyone dreams of this when not everyone, people who want to be actors dream of it. Being on a billboard or being in the Thor franchise or so is there anything you can say to prepare people for that? And I guess the question is, when you make it, what happens? Like what happens to you? And I suppose I mean personally as well. This is maybe the worst worded question I've ever asked.
No, it's okay.
When did you first know you made it? Was there a moment?
Oh, I don't even know if I have. I'm one of those people that's like, I'm just very grateful for the jobs I get. I have been on billboards and things like that. There have been times where I didn't even know I was on one, and I will be driving and I look up and I'm like, whoa, hey, that's weird. And also a heads up would have been cool, but it's totally fine, especially with Blind Spot in New York City. I was working so much I never got to see it.
Right.
Never got to see all the subways decked out with my tattooed naked body. That's not awkward for anyone, is it?
Where are those ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Google. They will be there forever. But I think what it is when you're able to, I think my definition of making it is feeling fulfilled by doing what I love and actually making a living out of it.
Sure.
Being able to pay my bills with the money that I earn from doing what I love. That for me is making it. So I don't need to be in the biggest blockbuster or a hit show or anything.
Even though you
really don't. That's a bonus that I have been, yes, but not everything I've done has done great at the box office or has gotten a lot of viewership on television. It's just, again, don't take it personally.
Not everyone can be as humble as you, though. So I imagine you probably know of people who have made it, and they've maybe changed along the way, or it's done something to them. And as advice to people, maybe anything that you could say, Things to watch out for so you don't turn into a big-headed, unhumble person.
Well, I'll never forget when I was younger and starting out, I met an actor whose dad is a very famous actor, and he himself is a famous actor. And I remember asking him, do you have advice? I was 18. Do you have any advice? And he turned to me and very sincerely said, don't be an asshole. And his dad is notorious for being an asshole. And this guy, I'll never forget him saying that, because he understood, even growing up with his dad being famous and probably growing up with some money, he still knew, like, it's not worth it to be an asshole, because in my opinion, this is a very hard business to be successful at. It's just because a lot of time it can be luck of the draw. Mm-hmm. So it's important to remain grateful and have gratitude, but also know that you deserve success coming your way, but do not let it lift you off the ground. You need to stay grounded. And I say that because, like with life, nothing is constant but change. Nothing will ever stay the same. So if you're in a high, there will be a low at some point. There will be, peaks and valleys. And it's important to not identify 100% with the peak, because it's just impossible to keep that going all the time, and that's just life. I mean, I think that relates to anything in life. So it's important to be appreciative and give yourself a pat on the back and celebrate doing well, but also not beat yourself up in the valleys.
Yeah.
So that's what I've taken on, and I've been able to stay humble through, and it's also how I was raised as well. Sure. But I have seen it be very destructive for a lot of people, whether it's, it can be a lot. It can be so much to let somebody else's opinion of you define who you are. So when you're in those peaks, having people say, well, we want you to wear this design, or we want your body to look like this, or we want you to do that, you have to go, let me see if I can do a little bit of each while not compromising myself. Because as soon as you compromise yourself, I promise you, you're just going to hit below a valley.
How do you know, it just reminded me of, because we can be getting feedback from so many different people, and as an actor, you are. How do you know who to listen to? Because everyone has an opinion.
I'll feel it. I'll know. I'll listen to the things that I don't do. If there's a review of something I'm in, I don't care. Those are all opinions. They're not facts. And some people mistake opinions for facts, and that's dangerous. For me, if I feel good about something, I'm always open to constructive criticism. Absolutely.
Like, it's too hot in here, get a fan.
Like, yeah, come on. Like some ice packs. Like, our feet could be in some ice pack. Guys, honestly, good thing he's cute. Anyways, moving forward.
Hello.
Hi. But with that, like, what were we talking about? Now you've gone and distracted. What the heck?
You started that.
I'm overheating, and it has nothing to do with you.
So we were talking about feedback. Who do you listen to yourself, you said?
I'll feel something. If I know somebody's like, hey, can we try to do this part this way? Or, hey, we would love to see the character a little bit more vulnerable or whatever. I like to try it out. Let me see if that works for me too. Let me see if I can meet you halfway. And a lot of times I agree with them. But when it comes to somebody saying like, oh, I hate her voice, or, oh, she's too fat or too thin or whatever, that's opinions. You don't have to listen to them.
What about the good opinions? I love her voice. She's just
careful
right.
of that. Careful of that too. Again, peaks and valleys. Like, it's best to stay as grounded as possible and not believe the hype, but also don't believe people that are ratting on you all the time. It's just, you have to know yourself.
And going back to one of the first things we spoke about, having a support group or people around you, I suppose that's your trusted circle, so maybe you can listen to them more.
Absolutely.
Do you have a mentor?
A mentor? I actually don't. I've been so fortunate to work with a lot of people that have shown me what, a good woman would be like, or a good man, and then also in the industry, like a good actress, a good actor, and I've just been, just by witnessing, I know exactly, I see what I don't want to be, and I've seen what I want to be. Great. And so I don't actually have one specific person in the industry. I do have somebody personally that I look up to, though.
Oh, you're incredible. I honestly think this is so helpful.
I hope so.
So many little gems here for people to listen to. And I guess to finish this off, I'd love to just ask you a question. Probably we had so many of your fans write in wanting me to ask questions. And so I've tried to ask as many as possible on their behalf. But one that was very clear was, what's Jaimie doing next?
What am I doing next? Well, aside from learning how to swim in the ocean, thanks to you, I am going to be reprising a character that I've played in the past that I'm very much looking forward to.
So the next thing you're doing is reprising a character that you've already played.
Right.
Which one?
Can't tell you that part.
Excellent.
Thank
you so much for coming in. That's really fun.
My pleasure.
I had fun. You're the best.
Same. High five.
All right.